Welcome into the November 7th episode of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. The Leafs roll through their daunting weekend back-to-back with not one, but two victories this weekend. It did come at a cost, though, with Ilya Samsonov getting injured in the process. We'll break down those games, give you our 3 stars of the weekend, and get you an update on the goalie situation in Toronto. All that and more coming up on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also now catch us up on video on YouTube. Just search up Locked On Leafs, hit subscribe, and catch new content that we put out each and every day, Monday through Friday, all Leafs, all the time. And Dave, what a weekend that was for the Maple Leafs. We were going into it thinking, oh man, what are we going to see? They had to go and play the hottest team in the league in the Boston Bruins. Oh, that's a win, 2-1. Now they got to go on the road and play another one of the league's top squads in the Carolina Hurricanes through travel, 5 o'clock start. Injured goaltender the night before. What happens? They gut it through and get the victory. Toronto picks up a 4 of a possible 4 points this weekend. I mean, just give me your straight up thoughts on the Leafs this weekend, Dave.
They over exceeded expectations. That's pretty much it. We were basically saying if they even if they lose respectfully, like that'd be fine. And the Leafs are just like, hold my beer. We will go out and we'll get to. I think
That's the thing. That's the thing with this team. Like the week before, they're losing to San Jose and Anaheim and LA and Arizona, Montreal, and then they go out and they beat the best 2 teams in the National Hockey League.
Yeah,
like that's so Leafs of them. So Leafs of them to play down to their opponent and then play up to their opponent and come to play and get ready to go and come away with a full 4 out of 4 points.
Yeah, this is probably how this Leafs team is going to be this year. It's going to be unpredictable.
Yeah,
we're constantly thinking of new slogans for this team. We're just going to have one word to describe this team: unpredictable.
And I hate that so much.
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
Well, that's how we're like the fan base is going to end up with. Like we're just going to be on a roller coaster the whole season. It's gonna it's gonna suck. All right, let's break these games down a little bit. The Boston game a little bit different, a little more of a controlling victory. Like they came to play, and Austin Matthews ends up with a couple of goals, and the goaltending held up. You had Samsonov, who was playing great up until the injury. Then he did not return for the third period. It was Erik Kallgren who turned aside 7 out of 7 saves. But what I thought was great was just how it seemed like they really seemed to control the game. And it may have been, if not one of the best efforts we've seen the Maple Leafs have this season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially when you see how the penalty kill stepped up, when you see them blocking shots, like Mark Giordano.
Oh, Mr. Vezina.
Yeah, like how many times I thought he was gonna pull something when he had to scissor and get himself in the way of the shot. But this is a team that these are the efforts you need to have if you're going to go far in the playoffs. You need to start doing these things more. I like that they're doing it against these top teams. Now let's try to replicate that against the lesser teams. This is just proof that they can do this, right? They can hold a 3-1 lead. They can hold a 2-1 lead. Like that 2-1 lead, I know probably a lot of people were like a little concerned, but to see
especially when Kallgren in net, not Samsonov.
Yeah, exactly. But to see them with the putting in the work and dedication to hold that lead, block shots, make it tough to get to those second chances. I think that was the big one. Not making sure that the Bruins and even the Hurricanes not getting too many of those second opportunities that could be backbreakers. And that was, I think, the difference in this weekend, especially in that Boston game. Like, the only goal you allowed is on a penalty shot.
Yeah.
Really, like that, you could not have asked for a better defensive effort than that, except for the Brody, allowing the penalty shot to happen in the first place. But
Well, yeah, I suppose. But I mean, you said it. That's exactly what we want to see. It was a terrific defensive effort. I mean, you had Justin Hall out there blocking shots, playing some key minutes, playing some decent hockey. Timothy Liljegren came in, played his first couple of games this weekend. I thought he was actually really good in the game against Boston. Somewhat got injured or shaken up. He got a little stinger, I guess, on the one goal that Carolina did score that kind of didn't allow him to tie up decent in front of the net, which led to him scoring his goal. But again, that's a little stinger he took, I suppose. So no, I'm not too worried about that. So I thought that, like, the defense actually, you're right, did play extremely well. And I think if Timothy Liljegren can come in and just round out that top four in a way where you got a right hand shot, you feel comfortable can play with Riley, in most situations at least, and then you can allow Justin Hall to have the babysitter and TJ Brody with him, who just makes everybody he plays with so calm, so steady. And now you've got a decent top four. When you got your top four playing some good defense, you've got Gio and Sandin as a great depth third pair. You've got the buy-in from the forwards, which is something that we also saw, like Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, all the way down to Kerfoot, Bunting, Engvall, and Kampf, Mulligan, who we'll speak a lot about in a couple of minutes. Those guys all buying in defensively and helping out, and it was really just a team effort. And that's what it needs to be against these top tier squads. It's got to be team efforts if you want to hunker down and get these wins, because that's what Boston does. That's what Carolina does. That's what Vegas does, right? They're fully connected. It's not just the blue liners that are relied upon defensively. It's the 5-man unit. The forwards got to come help and support as well. And I thought that they finally were doing that this weekend, not only in Boston, but in Carolina too. I thought that they didn't give up a whole lot. They didn't control play as much in Carolina, but they also kept them to the perimeter for most of the game. I would say they didn't get a lot of point shots, a lot of shots come from the outside. They look like what Toronto looked like when they played the bad teams, realistically, right? They didn't allow the dangerous guys to get into a lot of the dangerous areas. So I thought that defensively, this was definitely a good sign of some buy-in starting to take place here. Whether this is here to stay, I don't know. Hopefully it is, because there's another tough task against Vegas at home on Tuesday. But I thought that it was definitely a really solid weekend and a momentum builder. Now they've got 3 wins in a row, and they're feeling good with a couple of statement wins, right? A real statement win against Boston, then a gutsy win to kind of claw out of it. I thought that Kallgren played really well in Carolina. The one goal that he allowed was a bit of a crap goal that he definitely wouldn't want back, but he more than made up for it with some big saves in that game too. A couple of solid stops. So I thought overall it was a really good and really encouraging weekend for the Toronto Maple Leafs after what was a dicey 2 weeks or so.
yeah, well, and you can even lump the Philadelphia game into that, right? You
Yeah.
saw the offensive breakout against a not so great team, and then you saw two really good defensive efforts. I think with the forwards too, like making those little plays and making them at like the right times, right? To break up a guy who's open in the slot for an opportunity, and the forwards there to catch him. Like, those were things that were not happening before, right?
Mhm.
Defensive zone coverage was a disaster for, especially during that California road trip. Like, you could tell there was more of they were paying attention to those little details.
Yeah.
And then when you do the right things on the defensive side, it leads to chances offensively, right? And like that, those are things you have to they're going to have to do more of, right? They got to be, especially when you have a backup goaltender in net, you got to show that commitment to wanting to support him and not letting not letting people believe that they can't trust the backup goaltender, or in this case, the third string goaltender, to step in, right? I know there's not a lot of confidence in Erik Kallgren, but I'll have more confidence in him if the rest of the team is putting in the effort defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get you guys an update on the goalie situation in just a moment. But first, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors, and that's Simply Safe. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spiked nationally? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Simply Safe was named the best home security system in 2022 by US News and World Report, a third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify if the threat is real so you can get priority police response. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere, arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust the settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with David Morassutti. If you haven't already and you're a first-time listener here, we'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we've chatted about already. And if you are a Leafs fan and you crave that daily Leafs content, that's where you get it, right here, Locked On Leafs, either via podcast or also up on YouTube as well. And you can also join the Discord. We had a bunch of people actually after the last episode we talked about it reach out, wanted to join the Discord. So the Discord family got a little larger over the weekend as well. So we'll put that in the description, both in the podcast and on YouTube as well, if you want to join our Discord and get in on all the conversations and fun with a bunch of massive Leaf fans. Is really all it is. Just a big chat room with a bunch of massive Leaf fans. All right, so let's before we get to that needs to not happen. Whoopsies. Before we get into the injury updates, I guess to Ilya Samsonov, let's do our 3 stars of the weekend, and then we can get to the goaltending situation. So, Dave, do you have a 3rd star of the weekend? So we'll combine both games as our 3 stars.
3rd star, I'm gonna go with Justin Hall.
Okay, little respect to Jay Halsey. I like it. Let's go.
Look, I'm not anything if not fair. Okay, we have been very critical of his play when the Leafs have not been good. That doesn't mean we can't highlight when he has been good. That's what we're fair on this podcast.
Yes,
most of the time. Like I get, you can even say because he has TJ Brodie there, has helped him. But then that means he's doing the right things and the puck's not going in the net as much when he's on the ice. That is a positive. The Leafs need that, right? I know people are wanting a trade to happen. That doesn't mean that we don't want a trade to happen involving Justin Hall. That's not what we're saying. It's just the options are very limited right now. They got to make it work, and it's working right now. How long that will continue, that remains to be seen. But I will give him the benefit of the doubt after what I saw this weekend. 2 tough opponents, especially on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Like the Leafs penalty kill has not been very good, and it was really bad on the road on that road trip. It was pretty good over this last stretch of games. So I'm going to give Justin Hall a little bit of credit for that because he plays a big part of that.
Yeah, I'd love to give some credit too because he was really, really good this weekend. But the last 3 games in particular, I saw Scott Wheeler toss out these statistics. But the last 3 games since being on a pair with TJ Brodie, the babysitter, as we like to call him, on Leafs Lunch, because no matter who's with him, they always calm him down, right? He's the babysitter out there. But over 21 minutes of ice time, he's got an apple, and 5-on-5 on the ice for 58% of the shots, on the ice for 83% of the goals that are scored when he's out there on the ice. 5 goals for, only 1 against in the last 3 games. and then 9 defensive zone starts, which is a team high compared to just 6 O-zone starts. So he's being relied on defensively. He's jumping up into the offensive end a little bit. I mean, he's really the reason why the Leafs scored. Was it the first goal last night? The one where he pinched up along the wall? Engvall. Yeah, I think it would have been the first goal, I guess, the one they got from Engvall. So he was a big reason for that team getting into it and having some success this weekend for sure. I wanted to give some love on my third star to the fourth line. Like I got to give it to the fourth line in general. I thought that they were fantastic. Dennis Mulligan is really starting to carve out a nice role with this club on the fourth line, which is funny because we had many conversations we had about Dennis Mulligan this season where he's top 6 or bust. He's either going to play on that second line or he's going to go down to the minors. Like that fourth line is going to have a defensive identity, and he just won't fit what they're trying to do. Well, they tried that offensive identity, and it did not work, right? Abe Kubel and David Kampf and Zach Aston-Reese, they were supposed to be this team, this trio that could rely on defensively in their own zone. You just basically hem them in their own zone, and they'd be able to make it work. Was not the case. They were brutal. They were hemmed in the whole time, and nobody had the skill really to transport the puck out of their zone and into the offensive end to turn defense into offense. Since putting Dennis Mulligan on that flank over the past couple of games, he's really been a solid addition to that bottom 6, into that fourth line in particular. He's got the speed, the skill, little tenacity. Like he works hard, and to me there was kind of so the TSN turning point, we'll say this, and yesterday's game to me was Sheldon Keefe kind of switching up the line. So I'll give an honorable mention to Sheldon Keefe also as a star this weekend. But him juggling the lines, right? And then they finally got going. The big boys got going. But there was one shift in particular, like as that was happening, he kept the fourth line intact. So all the top 9, they all got juggled up. But the fourth line he kept intact purposely because how well they were playing. And it was the fourth line that had a shift where they applied some really good pressure in that game against Carolina with about 5 or so minutes to go in the second. And it was Dennis Mulligan who had a couple of really good chances, really good looks. And from there, they ended up getting a stoppage in the offensive end. On came Austin Matthews. And then, boom, all you know is there's 2, 3, 4 good shifts, wave after wave after that. So wanted to give a shout out to that line. I thought that they were outstanding on both ends of the ice. Like they had 0 offensive starts in the game, that fourth line, 0 offensive starts. And they ended up outshooting the opposition 9-2 last night, 4-1 in high danger chances, a 72 expected goals rating. And Mulligan led the team with 5 shots on net in yesterday's game. So definitely got to give a shout out and some third star honors to the fourth line.
Yeah, and they've been trying to find the right combination, and like they need to stick with this. I know some people were wondering why Dennis Mulligan didn't get moved up. When you have that fourth line working for you, don't change that. You can make the other lines kind of work by moving things around. But that fourth line, when you have a
still
line,
won the game. They still won the game.
Exactly, right? So
If they lose, there may be a bit more of a conversation about, hey, you should have done this.
Yeah.
But they won. So you don't have to have that conversation.
You don't have to have that conversation. Not at all. And yeah, I know. I just like the balance, right? Like Dennis Mulligan is doing somewhat what I thought Nicolas Aube-Kubel would do, but obviously Mulligan's got more of the offensive instincts that Kubel did not have, and he's got the confidence. He's playing with confidence, and they got to do whatever they can to keep that confidence high. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from that fourth line.
And for those who missed it, Nicolas Aube-Kubel was actually claimed off of waivers by the Washington Capitals, which ended up opening up a contract slot, which was very quickly filled for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll get to that in a moment also, who that guy is. But first, Dave, your second star of the weekend.
I got to give to Erik Kallgren. Like the Leafs, he was put in that really tough situation against Boston, didn't allow a goal. Sure, there were some nervous moments, but you're going to have that when the Bruins are pressing to get that equalizer, and he stood tall. And then against Carolina, like the Leafs for that first what I say, half of the game were being outplayed in terms of chances. They could not muster up much offense. So
100%.
Kallgren had to keep them in it. And there were some very tough point blank saves that he had to make.
Yeah.
And I know it didn't go well for him in the last few games. Like I saw the graphic they put up on Hockey Night in Canada when they're like Ilya Samsonov and then like the other options like Murray and Kallgren, which
Yeah.
sample size was very small when they put that up. Like I understand why they had to do that, but like I'm glad that Kallgren was kind of able to, come in, knowing that you're going to be the guy in that Carolina game probably helped a little bit too, not just throwing them under the bus a little bit there, and I thought the Leafs did a good job, of eliminating those second chances so that he wasn't going to be put out of position. There's still work to be done, and for him, especially if he's got to be the guy moving forward for the next little bit. But when you put up a performance like that against Carolina, who are a very tough team to beat, he definitely deserves a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are two of the top scoring teams in the NHL, and he stopped 35 of 36 shots on the weekend. I actually gave him first star honors. He was a first star for me this weekend. Picked up 4 points, out of a possible 4 points, and in a tough fashion. Right, like he knew he was going to play the Carolina game regardless, just because it was the back to back. But having to come in the third period with a 2-1 lead and being able to hunker down, hold it, and get the victory against the top offense in the NHL in the Boston Bruins. For me, that's why he earned first star honors. But my second star, who I'm assuming maybe was your first star, was Austin Matthews, who ended up getting a couple of Genos. Both the goals in the Boston game to get the victory. The reason why I'm at number 2 is just because the Carolina game, he didn't register a single shot on goal in that Carolina game, which is kind of wild to me.
It's wild, but I saw really good defensive efforts.
No, for sure. Well, I didn't say he played bad.
Oh
I say
no,
he didn't register a shot on goal, and that's not Austin-esque, really. And like the big boys didn't get it going until the big switch up, right? Realistically. And then like Matthews he ended up getting that really nice play from Marner to set up Tavares for that goal, which is really awesome. But Matthews, I felt the game against Boston, dynamite, elite play, both ends of the ice, showed that 200-foot game. And then last night against Carolina, there was, just a little more to be desired offensively. Defensively, for sure, he was totally in the mix the entire time, back checking hard, breaking up opportunities, breaking up plays. And that's what you need to see out of Austin Matthews, right? Just kind of that sneaky stick that he has and have it be very active in the defensive zone and in the offensive zone too, just by like knocking pucks down and whatnot. But I gave him the number 2. You give me the sell job why he should be the number 1, Dave.
Well, the 2 goals he got against Boston, right? He was the reason why they, other than Kallgren keeping the Bruins off the score sheet, he was the reason why they won that game. He was up putting himself in until the Carolina game, he had a goal streak going. Like he's starting to see the Austin Matthews that we were expecting to see this season starting to come back. He's not fully there yet, but he's showing signs of coming out of his early season slump. And yeah, I thought defensively too, he was making the plays that he needed to make. Like if you're not going to have an impact on the offense, you got to do it on the defensive side of the game, and that's what Austin Matthews did, I think, against Carolina. I thought it was interesting that they made the switch, but I mean, considering where the game was going, I'm glad Sheldon Keefe did it kind of early in the game and didn't wait too long to just kind of throw the lines in a blender, because sometimes it can look like desperation, but when you do it a little bit earlier, it kind of, you give it a chance to see if something can actually come out of it. And I like that it didn't impact things too much when he made that change. But I thought Austin Matthews, we're starting to see, when with Tavares playing so well, and now Austin Matthews starting to get going, that should give a lot of Leafs fans confidence, because before it was really only one of them kind of stirring the drink. Now you got 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's very deadly right now.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, so those are the three stars of the weekend. And the reason why Kallgren had a chance to be a star is because of the injury to Ilya Samsonov. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, let's detail exactly what happened and what the fallout is and what the team or what it means for the team going forward. I'll be right back here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We're hosts here at Locked On Leafs. Toronto with a couple of big victories against the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. They've got the Vegas Golden Knights in town tomorrow. So a really tough stretch. And so far they are 2 for 2, hoping to go 3 for 3, but won't be doing it with their quasi number one goalie in Ilya Samsonov for the next week or so. He was injured in the Boston game. Reports are that he hurt it during the penalty shot, if I'm not, if I recall correctly, and it was a really weird angle that he took in the penalty shot. I guess, like, I don't know if his leg got caught under him when he tried to go back and make the stop, but it looked painful, and then ended up not returning for the third period. They classified as a knee injury, and he was placed on the injured reserve list, which means he'll miss at least a week. So he won't be back with the team for at least a week until next Sunday, I guess. You got to spend 7 days on IR before you can get back into a game. So that's the update on Ilya Samsonov. Well, hopefully he is able to come back as soon as possible, because he was playing, some really sound hockey this season for the Maple Leafs. And considering that, like, Matt Murray also injured, we're now down to Erik Kallgren as the starting goaltender for the time being for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've been there, right? That happened last year when Mrazek and Campbell went down. Kallgren had to carry the load for a little bit, so it's not a completely unfamiliar territory for him, but certainly not ideal for the Maple Leafs, a team looking to go on a bit of a run here and maybe win themselves a Stanley Cup. But with that, Erik Kallgren becomes the guy. But they were in a situation last night where, because of all the injuries to Samsonov, Matt Murray, Joseph Woll, and then Dennis Hildeby, who was on loan in Sweden, they had no more goaltenders. So thankfully, Nicolas Aube-Kubel gets claimed off waivers on Friday, and that opens up a contract slot for them, which they probably weren't thinking about signing Keith Petruzzelli to the deal so quickly. And Sheldon Keefe alluded to that, said, yeah, this probably, we may have signed him, but this sped up the process. But anyway, so Keith Petruzzelli ends up signing a 2-year entry-level deal with the Maple Leafs. He had been on a AHL deal with the Marlies this season, playing really, really well, by the way, like a .231 goals against and like a .930 save percentage, 6-0 record with the Marlies. So he'd been playing some sound hockey. He gets called up. He gets to back up Erik Kallgren in the meantime, while Samsonov and Murray work back from their injuries. But I did also see that Matt Murray resuming skating with the team tomorrow, Sheldon Keefe said. And his return could also be on the horizon. Works out. That just is funny how that. We need you now. Oh, okay. Now, okay. So I'm ready to come back now. Yeah, now you're ready to come back. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Because last week he said, I don't see him come back anytime soon. And now all of a sudden, Sheldon Keefe's like, oh, yeah, he should be ready to come back pretty soon. He's going to start skating again with the team on Tuesday. Kind of funny how that worked out, huh?
It's always curious how that works. And it also helps that Jake Munson's on LTIR.
Yeah.
So they're not exactly in the salary cap crunch right now.
Very true.
But when I saw that Nicolas Aube-Kubel was placed on waivers, I know a lot of people were like, he's going to get claimed. I'm like, yeah, he's probably going to get claimed. And when I saw Washington claim, I'm like, that actually does the Leafs a big favor.
Massive favor.
Because of the salary cap, because the Leafs could have buried all that in the minors.
They were looking to trade him regardless, right? Yes. Like, they wanted to trade him away. Apparently, like, I was speaking with Chris Johnston Friday on Leafs Lunch, and Kyle Dubas sent out a memo to the whole league saying, hey, this guy's available for literally anything. And I guess no one
just take him
off our hands. I think they just wanted to have that contract slot if they weren't going to play him. So just take him off our hands. Nobody bit. So they put him down on waivers, and Washington, who I think earlier that day or maybe the day before got the news about Connor Brown was going to be out for the rest of the season. So they're like, you know what? Let's go out and get a winger, a depth winger. So they pick him up, claim him. They had the space. And yeah, it did Toronto a massive favor by opening up a contract slot, which was the only reason why they were able to bring in Keith Petruzzelli.
Did you see the video that came out after when he is signed?
I did. It's pretty great.
Do you want to play it for the folks? Hopefully, I got it queued up here. It was.
Sure.
I love these moments when players and teams kind of let them know, and they do it in such a classy way. So this was just literally like, I guess the Marlies had played,
Yeah,
and
they're in Belleville.
the news had came out. Like, obviously, we found out the news after the Leaf game, but it seemed like when Samsonov went down, like Kyle Dubas was on the phone with Petruzzelli's agent, like, yeah, so that NHL contract, we'll sign him now.
Yeah, we'll definitely sign that deal right now.
All right, so this was the new when Petruzzelli when the news got out to the team. So here, we'll play this right now.
We talk to you guys all the time about a 3-tier development system. We talk to you guys all the time about coming here, getting better, growing, improving, and good things will happen. Unfortunately, this is hockey. Sometimes injuries happen. And tonight they did. So tonight, Keith Petruzzelli is going to sign an NHL contract.
He's so tall and lanky. Like, he looks like a goaltender.
We talk to you guys all the time about a 3-tier development system.
Doesn't he just look like a goaltender? Like, he's just so tall and lanky. He's like 6'6".
He's a big boy. Like, the Leafs have made that a point to get these big goaltenders. And
yeah, Hildebee's a big dude too.
Yeah, like they got some big boys in this system, but I just love those moments because, like, I've heard a lot about Keith Petruzzelli just from, like, when they brought him in last year, and then
If you recall, he was one. Remember we did the top 5 players we're excited to watch in the prospects camp.
yeah,
He was on my list of one of the guys I was excited to watch. I thought, he's probably the best goaltender at that camp. And I just liked his story. I liked the way he played when he was at Quinnipiac. And I was shocked that he hadn't gotten an offer, like an actual offer from an NHL club outside of AHL deals. And it's nice to see kind of all that hard work pay off for the kid. And now he's signed to an NHL deal and in the NHL. Like, the guy, I think he had 6 American League starts in his entire career. Maybe, no, I think he had a couple last year too, but like maybe less than 10 American League starts. And all of a sudden now he's got to back up Erik Kallgren in the National Hockey League for the historic Toronto Maple Leafs franchise. Just a cool story.
Oh, it's a great story. We'll see whether he gets in. The Leafs they play 3 games this week. They have a back-to-back Friday, Saturday against Pittsburgh and Vancouver. 2 teams that have been struggling this season, I must say.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how they divvy that up. Do they go? I mean, likely Kallgren goes against Vegas on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then maybe Friday we could see the NHL debut of Keith Petruzzelli. It's like
I think it'll depend. It'll depend, I guess, on Matt Murray. If Matt Murray's ready to go by the weekend, he'll probably get one of those starts. I don't know if that's the case. I just know that from hearing Sheldon Keefe speak, his update was that he's going to start practicing with the team on Tuesday, and once he's ready and feels like he is in shape, like in game shape, he should be ready to go. So I guess the injury's fine. It's now just a matter of getting back up to speed and back into game shape. That's going to be what we're waiting on for Matt Murray. So we'll see what happens there. Who ends up starting those games? But I'm it's like Samsonov's injury. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, here we go. But then Kallgren coming in, wins that third period, wins a game against Carolina. I still think Toronto's in a little bit of a situation, obviously, with the goaltending, but it's only going to be for a couple of games, I think. I really, really hope that is. And if that's the case, if the team just buys in defensively the way that they did this weekend and they play connected as a unit, um, they're a pretty good squad, and they should be able to win a lot of hockey games playing that way.
And they're going to get a big test in the rematch against Vegas,
Massive.
who have been on a roll. I think 7 straight wins,
Oh yeah,
and one of those coming against the Leafs.
Yep. I mean, Boston won 7 straight too. Then they ran into the buzzsaw Maple Leafs.
Leafs, the
So
streak killer.
that's it. They're the streak killers. They are the streak killers. So we'll see if they can go 3 for 3 on what is maybe the most daunting 3-game stretch of their season coming here in early November. But solid first couple of games, a solid weekend out of the Maple Leafs. It's good to see some guys, some goals start to dropping, some players starting to find their footing, and the goaltending can hold up until they get healthy. I think the team's in a pretty good spot. Let's leave it there, Dave. Solid show today. A lot of fun. We'll get back at it tomorrow. We'll tee up the game against the Vegas Golden Knights because, like you said, it's going to be a big one. That'll do it for us today on the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms to receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.